So before we start, I just feel like I need to explain what we're doing this week one last time. So when I first started this channel, I recorded 4 videos that we never ended up actually releasing. And the reason for that was just they were very low quality. I didn't record them right, so we ended up putting them in the trash. But here's the thing, I picked those 4 videos with a very specific purpose, and it was to establish what the colors of each individual category means. So today we are going to be watching the very first set of videos I ever watched for Archive Dive. And for the Blue channel, the very first video I watched was called Gulf Stream by the National Film Board of Canada, Bullfrog Films, 1982. So that's what we're watching again for the second time today. This is going to be the first time any of you have seen this, but I have already watched this once, and this is the only time I'm ever going to do something like this where I rewatch stuff, but I just think it establishes the ethos of each color category so well that I think it's worth it to watch it again. So here we go, Gulf Stream 1982, let's see what it's all about. Okay, a very weird sound to start with, but I guess this is just the audio file for Bullfrog Films. An unknown production company. I've never heard of Bullfrog Films before this. But what a way to start a program with just some weird noises. Oh wow, look at this little animation too. That's so funny. It just did a wipe. You know, I could spend so much time just dissecting these animations, but you know, they're not really worth it. But again, very interesting. You know, like that's an impressive animation for what is this, 1981? Yeah, 1982. Impressive animations for the time. Oh, so that was the National Film Board of Canada. Interesting. You know what? The National Film Board of Canada is probably still around.
This is sailboat Freya, bound for Newfoundland, over. Roger, Freya.
Oh man, alright, so already we're on the middle of the ocean. I feel like I should also mention that I've already explained the Gulf Stream in my own Atlas Pro videos. So not only am I watching a program on something I'm sort of familiar with already, but I'm also watching something that I myself have tried to make. So it'll be interesting to see how they choose to illustrate certain points compared to how I've done it in the past as well. Of course, I never went on a sailboat out in the middle of the ocean to talk about the Gulf Stream, but you know what? That's an advantage of having a higher production budget, I guess.
25 miles west of Grand Bahamas. Voyage.
This looks so sick, though. I wish I was on this boat. I don't remember if I've mentioned before, but I used to go to sailing school, so I do know a little bit about, like, ocean navigation. And let me tell you, this looks like a blast to be out on right now.
Should take about 15 days, over. Roger.
15 days, though. Imagine being on this boat for 15 days at least. See, that's the scary part of navigation that I'm not so sure I'd be cut out for, is just being out on the open ocean like this boat with nothing but sea for miles and miles. Again, how'd they get these shots though? Is this filmed? It must be filmed on a helicopter, but is it near the coast? It must be like near the coast for them to get helicopter shots, but I don't know. It just, is it or is it not? I don't know.
Roger, Captain. We copy that. Good sailing. Coast Guard out.
Dang, this guy's living the life though, just on his boat alone, like, oh, living the dream, really.
I'm making a steady 10 knots through the Straits of Florida, but only half my speed is from the wind. Powered by the sun and the spin of the Earth itself, I'm riding a current.
This is an interesting way to start talking about the Gulf Stream. Like for me, the Gulf Stream starts with like the spinning of the Earth or whatever, but you know, from a story perspective, I guess it makes a lot more sense to start with somebody actually using the Gulf Stream to, you know, propel their ship or whatever. It's just, that's a different way of introducing the topic than what I would have come up with.
Which flows up the western Atlantic.
Oh, but now we're getting an actual ocean diagram. This is really cool. I love seeing these sorts of old animations, especially like when they actually have like, I don't know, little details in them like this.
Atlantic, like a river in the ocean.
Like a river in the ocean, you know, it's pretty, I feel like that phrase, a river in the ocean, is still used to explain what ocean currents are, like even to this day. Dude, like this animation, this is like the special sort of animation. Like it's 3D, but it's also 2D at the same time. Like how'd they do this animation, you know? Like I still can't do this animation for my videos. Like I'm just sitting here in awe of how good this looks, even for 1980s. Like it's a 3D block that's coming out of the screen towards us, but it's also just a 2D art form. Like I don't know how they're doing it, you know? Oh wow, what a way to enter the title frame though. Gulf Stream, that's pretty cool. That was a good title reveal. I was not expecting the title at all. Oh wow, and the way it transitions away from the wave hitting it, that's a little something extra, all right? Whoever made this is putting their extra sauce in it, that's for sure. I'm starting to remember though that a lot of this program is just like very eerie music as we watch a boat travel over water. Like I really hope there's a lot more to be heard from the narrator than what we've gone over so far. I just feel like I've been watching a boat on the water for so long already.
My voyage began 12 days ago.
His voyage began 12 days ago and he's got 15 days left, so pretty much a month-long voyage. That's wild.
1,500 miles to the south, near the equator.
I wonder where he's going. So if he's in the Atlantic and he started by Florida, I don't know, he's going to end in like Maine or somewhere?
Where the cycle of winds and currents begins.
This is an awesome boat though. This is not a beginner level boat, that's for sure.
As the sun heats the tropical ocean, hot moist air rises off the water.
Oh wow, we're actually getting like, I know that sounds stupid to say, but it's like, I did not expect us to get the actual literal explanation for like what causes this cycle to run in the first place. But you know what, that's really good. It's good that they're telling us the equatorial sun is causing the water to warm up, which causes the air to rise. That is like the foundational thing to learn about the Gulf Stream. And these are some crazy shots too. This is from space itself. This might be more crazy than any of the other shots we've gotten in the rest of this. Like when is it? 1981? So I guess we had been to space a few times before. I just don't know. Did they buy these shots for this program, or did they make them for this program, or is this like stock footage that they bought from somebody? Because it seems pretty absurd to imagine that they actually sent somebody into space just for this footage for this program. But it makes more sense if we collected this footage through like NASA and then they made it available for other people like Bullfrog Films to use in their programs. That makes more sense. It's just I'm curious how we actually got this footage.
Immense thunderheads form in a belt around the whole Earth.
I was not expecting to see footage from space in a program this old, but I guess it's already 20 years since we went to the moon at this point, or 10 years since we went to the moon at this point, so maybe it is to be expected. Again, that's part of the fun of watching these old sorts of programs. You're always expected by how advanced their imagery was for the time.
This is the zone of the doldrums.
Again, I don't think you could have gotten creepier music if you asked for it. There's a little face in that cloud there. Did you guys see that? We don't need to play that again, but there was a little face in the cloud.
As clouds condense and rain falls, the surrounding air is heated more.
I feel like I've seen this cloud shot like a million times in my life. Does anyone else feel like that? Like, look at it. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen this specific shot of clouds expanding in the atmosphere like 100 times. I don't know from where, but I feel like I've seen that shot before.
Gales blow through these hot towers nearly to the edge of the stratosphere. Finally, the air flows away from the equator towards the poles. It's a thin, high-altitude wind. At the surface in the doldrums, winds are erratic.
Again, the music is doing a really good job of conveying the unsettling feeling I think the director wanted us to feel in this moment.
As hot air rises all around, I am becalmed.
And this is notable that you do have like the doldrums around the equator where you can't get any wind because the air is just so still because it's moving up and down and left and right and everywhere. It's just, I guess it's hard to explain, but I guess we'll learn about that later, hopefully. Again, this is pretty impressive footage for the fact that there's only one guy in this boat. Like, I can't imagine he's the photographer. I have to imagine he's the subject. But then that means that there's a whole nother boat tagging along with him where the camera operator and all their film is stored. You know, like this is definitely a bigger operation than what it looks like. Especially if they're getting like underwater film shots. Again, they're filming on a literal film, not digital cameras. So it's like, it's a whole extra process to get them underwater and everything. So this is really impressive footage for what we're watching right now. See, this is probably like the reason I don't sail anymore right here, is just seeing the storm on the horizon where the sky just blacks out. I do not want to sail through a storm like this. The unending size of the ocean is just like so terrifying, especially when you can see like storms like this from so far away. It's just, oh my gosh, I would be terrified if I were on this boat right now. I know I say I like sailing, but it's only until I see stuff like this. Yeah, like what do you do when you're on a sailboat in a storm? Like you can't do anything, you know? Like you are just like susceptible to the elements at this point. You're really just a piece of driftwood out there all the same.
It took days sailing through tropical squalls and prolonged calms to reach the trade winds, the most constant winds on the planet.
See, yeah, the trade winds come in just above and below the equator a little, but I kind of wish we had like a diagram or like a map to show us that, because it's kind of hard to keep that information in your head. I think it does much better when you actually see a map of the winds. Maybe that's just me though. Again, this is clearly taking a more narrative approach, whereas I, in my videos, definitely take a more like visual animation approach, but you know, that's just the difference in production styles, I guess.
They blow from the northeast towards the equator to replace the heated air which rises in the doldrums.
Again, the explanation he gave is good. I just feel like I'm not understanding it because I'm not seeing it visually. Like, I already know what the Gulf Stream is and how all this works. So the fact that I'm sitting here and trying to imagine what he's saying and having a little bit of difficulty is kind of illustrating that this might not be the best way to teach about the Gulf Stream. But this is still pretty good. I'm still invested in this story. I'm just thinking from like a purely like YouTuber sense, like if this is actually conveying the information on the Gulf Stream the best way, which I don't know. Maybe I've just been doing it wrong this whole time, and this is actually the superior way of illustrating this point.
Blowing from Africa to the Caribbean, these winds carried the slave trade to the New World.
Yeah, I guess that's the notable thing to say about the trade winds here, is that those are the same exact wind patterns that you use to get from Africa or Europe to the Americas as you fly on the trade winds, or you sail on the trade winds, which is exactly what slave traders did. Like, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's funny, but it's kind of just ironic that the world actually has like this conveyor belt of wind taking you directly from Africa to the Americas and back. Like, it just always seemed like there was going to be exchange between those two continents because of how the winds worked, you know?
Every wave and ripple pushed by the trades transfers energy from the air to the sea.
Oh, wow. All right. So we are getting an animation. Cool.
Causing a westward drift of the waters, the equatorial currents.
Oh, wow. That's cool. So we're actually getting like a full animation too. I was expecting just like an arrow to appear to tell us where the water's going, but the fact that these arrows are moving is like 10 times more impressive, especially for the time this was made. Again, this is like pretty much identical to the animation I would have made to illustrate the same point. You know what I'm saying? Like in an Atlas Pro video, like you're still going to get the same arrows moving and pointing in the same direction. It's obviously not going to look exactly like this. It's cut from the same cloth that Atlas Pro videos are cut from now, you know?
When they reach the coast of Brazil, these wide, slow currents are deflected northwards. Much of this water flows through the Caribbean, across the Gulf of Mexico.
Dang, and the zoom in. See, this is a very complex animation that we're watching right here. We have like 3 rows of arrows that are moving independently of one another, and then we're having the whole frame zoom in while they're animated. It's impressive. It's like, I feel like nobody can fully appreciate this sort of stuff except for me, because this is also what I do.
And out through the Florida Straits to become the Gulf
Like,
Stream.
look how far we just zoomed in and we still have good resolution on everything, you know? Like, that's just impressive. Oh, wow. So this is a different sort of animation that we just faded into as well. So this is like an actual, like, weather, like, NASA satellite photography map. Or at least that's what it looks like.
Time-lapse.
This might actually just be an illustration trying to show what clouds look like from above, which, if that's the case, they did a phenomenal job figuring that out. But if not, I don't know. This is a very impressive visual, to say the least. Like, they clearly have the climate cycles in there. They have everything. Like, this is really impressive. This is something that you wouldn't even see in an Atlas Pro video.
Satellite photography shows the dark blue current flowing northward over a period of several days.
Like, it looks like it's stop motion or something. It looks like it's animated, though. It looks like this was hand drawn, because even the part of the maps that are land still are kind of moving around. So it doesn't look like this is actual photographs. This looks like it's a handmade animation. But I don't know. I just don't know how they would do that. I guess each frame is a different painting, and they're just switching between the paintings back and forth. Yeah, because if you look at how the land moves, it's clearly not like a satellite photo. Whoa, and now we're just looking at animals in the deep ocean. Okay, interesting. Again, something I just don't think I would have mentioned in my video about the Gulf Stream is all the little weird animals that float in it, but you know what? We're along for the ride on this one. And I think we're gonna see some cool animals. Like, what even are these, you know? Like, I've seen wacky animals from the deep ocean before, but they always surprise me. Like, I just don't even know what I'm looking at with these.
For plankton adrift in the Gulf Stream, time passes with a different pulse.
Like, are they just chains of plankton, or are they specific sorts of animals or something? Well, this is a specific animal. See, this is what's so crazy. It's just like, I don't even recognize this. I have been watching like deep ocean documentaries for like my whole life, and I'm still seeing new stuff here in this like 40-year-old documentary. All right, well, that's just a jellyfish, actually. I know what that one is. What type of jellyfish? I couldn't tell you. What this thing is? Yeah, I don't know what we're looking at anymore. It's fascinating whatever we're looking at, though. I kind of wish that the narrator was telling us this sort of stuff, but, you know, beggars can't be choosers, I guess.
The commonest animals are gelatinous.
See, like, what even is this? See, like, oh my God, I don't want to look like I'm seeing this sort of stuff for the first time. I've seen deep sea animals before, but they're all just so curious. It's just like, what is even happening with this?
Some species named salps form delicate colonies and chains several meters across.
Is that what he said? Salps? So they're forming these little colonies. That's what I said. It looks like a bunch of plankton holding onto each other. What is this thing? It has like a weird tentacle, but it's not like a, I don't know, that's so weird.
Here,
It's just like a little bulb with a tentacle coming out of it.
here, a small colony is carried by one large individual.
Yeah, these really are truly bizarre. Again, I don't really know what this has to do with the Gulf Stream, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless.
The ctenophore is propelled by
Oh, I've seen these things before. It's really cool to get to see them in this old sort of footage, but yeah, I've seen these. These like light up and make all sorts of colors.
rows of iridescent cilia.
Yeah, these are probably like one of the most fascinating little deep ocean animals ever. But because of that, I've already seen them before.
The medusa, swimming with rhythmic contractions, preys on the ctenophore.
Oh, really? Are we about to watch like one eat the other? That would actually be really impressive. Again, how do you get footage of that? You know what I'm saying? Like, these animals are just drifting in the ocean randomly. So the fact that you sunk down to their level and just luckily managed to capture something like this, it's just incredible. Dang, so it got caught in the medusa's like cilia or whatever. This is like high action in the deep ocean, what we're watching right now. Again, how big are these things even? Like, what's the scale? I don't know. I'm picturing these things are like about the same size as my hand. Dang, yeah, this is some wild footage. Good, shout out to whoever got these shots because they really went up and above getting them. I guess they went down and below to get them, but whatever. Again, just what are the chances that they actually got to witness this happening in nature? It's just bizarre. I don't know. I'm so impressed that they have this footage. Again, this is something else that you would never see in an Atlas Pro video. Oh, okay, and now we're back with the boat again. Not to complain or anything, but this is a bit of a meandering storyline. Like, I don't know if we're really laser focused on the Gulf Stream this entire time. I don't know what that little pit stop in the deep ocean really was going to teach us about the Gulf Stream, but I guess let's just keep watching and see if it all comes back full circle.
Salps feed by filtering minute organic particles from the water, which they pump through their body.
What does he keep calling them? Salps? I feel like they're just plankton to me. I don't know. Like, I would call all of this plankton.
For many organisms, swimming and
They're definitely planktonic if they're not.
feeding are the same motion. Despite the diversity of life, populations are small in the Gulf Stream. This is
See, what even is this? This is a whole bunch of salps connected to each other. This is just, again, an amazing, like meta animal even? Like, I don't know, super animal? I don't know. It's made out of multiple different little animals, I think. Again, it's just like, what am I even looking at here? Holy moly.
caused by a lack of nutrients and explains the incredible clarity of the water. For the gelatinous species, transparency is the best camouflage.
Yeah, I will give it to them. I am definitely confused by looking at them just because of how transparent some parts of their body are compared to others. Like, it is just a really confusing thing to look at.
And the most visible creatures are fast-moving predators.
See, again, what are the chances that you just run into a sea turtle all the way out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? It's just, I'm so impressed with the footage they got from this. And this, for example, this must have been shot on like a helicopter or something. I mean, none of the water is like rippling like it's under a helicopter or anything. It's just, so did they have like a really high up helicopter and like a zoom lens on it? Or are they just like filming this really close to the water somehow? You know, like, again, how did they get any of this? Again, this would be so exciting to capture on film, though. If you were actually just on this sailing trip and you ran into a pod of dolphins, this would just be so exciting. You know, I hope that's actually what happened, too. I hope this isn't just like dolphin stock footage that they bought after the fact. I don't know if this is footage associated with that guy in the boat or if this is just completely unrelated footage or not. You know, like, did they get all this footage in the same trip, or is this just like later on footage? Like, here we have the boat, but we never got to see the boat with the dolphins, which makes me think that this was just two completely separate, isolated events, which would make it less impressive, but even still, it's just, I wonder if they got that while on this voyage, or if they just got that footage somewhere else. That's part of the fun of watching these old sorts of programs too, is just dissecting the technique or the method behind it all. Because again, I also use stock footage for my videos, so I have to think of that. I have to think like, oh, can I show this with footage I have, or do I have to find footage for this? And so I feel like that gives me insight into the decisions being made by the people making this as well.
Here off Cape Hatteras, infrared space photography colors the current magenta.
Oh wow, this is really interesting. So this is space photography, and now they're using, wow, that's really cool. So they're coloring, all right, I gotta listen to what he actually says first.
Showing that it is far hotter than the blue-colored water along the coast.
Oh, okay, so this is, space imagery showing the ocean temperatures. And what we're seeing is all this red area. This is warm water coming up the coast of North America from the Gulf of Mexico. And it's pretty much a very visual indication of the Gulf Stream. It doesn't get more literal than this. It's literally an image of the warm water being drawn north. Like, that is the Gulf Stream right there for you. That's, again, a very good photo to be showing.
80 kilometers wide.
Oh, and wow, we get even more arrow animations. See, honestly, it's so funny, but these arrow animations are like the most impressive thing so far. Maybe not. Maybe this is like easier to do back then than I give it credit for. It's just like, it's so funny because I know how much work goes into making these sorts of things now, where this might seem like more work than it actually was. Because yeah, these animations are all just on a loop, so it was probably just one thing that they had to replace over and over again. But even still, it's impressive that they did it.
Nearly 3,000 meters deep. The stream forms the western...
Because I feel like these animations actually do illustrate how the Gulf Stream works. Like, it would be hard to show how water moves in the oceans without actually having some sort of movement of its own, and that's what the arrows do. The arrows provide for us that, that intuitive aspect of, oh, that's water moving.
Boundary of a huge revolving gyre of water, the Sargasso Sea.
This is also something that I've learned about. I've never made a video about the Sargasso Sea, but in my marine biology class, we learned a lot about it. So this should be interesting. Apparently, it's just this huge part of like dead open ocean where all this sargassum grows. I guess I'll just let them explain it because I'm not really prepared for it right now.
This sea within a sea is named after the patches of sargassum weed which drift here, caught by the encircling currents.
Yeah, if you saw in that animation, there was just that circular current going round and round forever within the Atlantic. And some stuff like sargassum, a floating sea plant, gets caught in that. And then it just forms these huge clumps of sargassum just in the middle of the ocean with nowhere to go. And it creates very special environmental conditions as well. And it's so funny because it's something that's right off the coast of North America. And yet most people who live here just have no idea that the Sargassum Sea even exists at all. It's just like, this is an entirely aquatic environment that humans just have like no concept of.
Buoyed up by its grape-like floats, this simple plant shelters 100 different animal species.
Yeah, and beneath all these floating plants are just like blooming ecosystems full of different fish species. It really is amazing. Again, I don't really know how this relates to the Gulf Stream. I would not have mentioned the Sargassum Sea in my video about the Gulf Stream, but you know what? Hey, who am I to judge? I'm learning a lot and I'm having fun doing it, so can I really complain?
At the bottom of the food chain, microscopic organisms encrust the weed with calcium deposits and fern-like colonies. A minute sea spider picks at a branch.
Wow, this is some interesting footage too. This is like through a microscope almost, or like a very, very good macro lens, which is just impressive. Whoa, what is this thing? See, oh man, I feel like I know what these are, but I don't know what they're called. Sea slugs? Is this a sea slug?
This fireworm.
Oh, it's a fireworm. That's what they're called.
This finger-sized fireworm browses on the microscopic creature.
Dude, this is like the most bizarre looking animal ever. This animal looks like it should be like microscopic. I guess that's what he just said, but it doesn't look. It looks like you could hold it in your hand. Bro, what are we looking at? All right, so this is a fish. Oh, those are one of the fish with like the hands or whatever, like the feet hands. I don't know how to describe it other way. Oh, I guess feet fins. That means this fireworm's also got to be pretty big then. Yeah, they have the little hands on their like front feet. I don't know how else to describe it.
Camouflaged like the weed, the sargassum fish can swallow animals its own size.
The sargassum fish can swallow animals its own size? I'd like to see that happen. Oh, look at its little hands too. That's what I was saying. Look at the little hands. Oh my God, those are so weird. Look how tiny, like, oh my God. Those are such weird little hands. Oh my God, I don't know. Those creep me out. At the same time, that's really cool though. Like that a full-formed hand just evolved on the face of this random fish, you know?
Its fins have evolved into grasping hands. In a marine jungle, it is better to crawl than to swim.
That is a very fascinating form of convergent evolution right there, those hands. And I guess they evolved in order to grab onto the things in the sargassum. That's so interesting.
Living in the weed, the leander shrimp has evolved lobster-like claws.
I don't know if you could call those quite lobster-like claws. Those are pretty shrimpy claws to me still. Like, don't shrimp already have claws like that? I don't know what the point of comparing that to a lobster's claws really are. Dude, these have to be like the weirdest fish on the planet. I know that's saying something considering how many fish there are, but like, honestly, find me a weirder fish than these guys.
At night, these clumsy swimmers may venture into the waters below.
Like they have two little legs coming out of their head, and then their little flippers on the sides also have like hands on them. This is the weirdest fish in my opinion, at least.
But fast-moving predators lie in wait.
Dang, this music right now, I thought I was watching like Dune for a second. Play that music back and listen to the Dune soundtrack and you'll hear it. That's, that's a weird little musical hint in there.
The most voracious sargassum creature is the Portunis crab.
See, isn't it wild that there's a whole crab that just lives on these floating rafts of vegetation in the ocean? Like, it doesn't have any specific, like, land home. It just lives floating around in places. That's more wild than anything, really.
It lies camouflaged in the weed, catching anything from small fish to microscopic anemones.
Just what a bizarre environment. I'm actually so glad we're getting to learn about this. I, again, don't really know how this relates to the Gulf Stream, besides that it's, like, in the Gulf Stream, but, like, I'm so glad we're getting to learn about this, because this really is, like, the most fascinating thing ever. It's just like there's a whole ecosystem within these little clumps of seaweed, you know? It's so fascinating. Yeah, and that's what it looks like from above. And that's what it looks like from above. Just these weird little clumps of brown floating in the water. And yet there are so many of these clumps everywhere in this one part of the ocean that it made it a very specific name. That it earned it a very specific name, the Sargasso Sea.
Weak currents and variable winds over the Sargasso Sea push the rafts of weed into windrows, which drift into the Gulf Stream and are carried away to the north.
Again, like this shot, they needed a helicopter to get this shot, but did they have a helicopter just following them for the entire voyage? They must have been close enough to land to take off and land again, right? Like, I don't know. I'm so curious how they actually produced this. And the funny thing is they spent all the time, money, and energy getting a helicopter out here, and the footage they got from it is still a little shaky because they're just in a helicopter.
In the open current, predator and prey need speed or shelter to survive.
See, like, this is also what I don't understand. So there are just fish swimming around in random parts of the open ocean. Like, I would imagine that you would need some sort of resources or something to attract fish. Like, you wouldn't just find them randomly in the ocean, but it's funny that you do. Like, you would just find random groups of fish just swimming where you would never expect anything to be.
Hundreds of miles from their natural habitat, reef-dwelling fishes forage for plankton.
Oh, so they said it hundreds of miles away from their natural habitat. So I was a little bit right that you would not expect to be seeing fish like this where you are.
In the shelter of a piece of driftwood.
And that's all they have. That all they have is one piece of driftwood that they all hang out beneath, you know? Like, the ocean is just so bizarre, man. What is this? Is this a bottle?
Goose barnacles encrust an old bottle.
That's honestly pretty cool. I wonder what's inside. Dang, is this up-close footage of barnacles? This is some sort of polyp at least. It's some sort of coral family member. It didn't explain it, so we might never know.
Bonito are one of the fastest swimming fishes. To escape their attack, flying fish take to the air.
Again, this is like very cool. What a good shot this person just got of this flying fish just traveling like yards upon yards over the ocean. Very good shot. Again, I don't quite know how this explains the Gulf Stream, but you know what? I'm having fun. We're watching some cool stuff right now.
With extraordinary powers of...
Oh wow, so you can actually see somebody swimming right here. I don't think this is the guy who's sailing the boat, but it looks like another cameraman or a camera operator or something. You know, there's more than just one person here. Like, at least we have that confirmed for us. And of course, it's the one shot where there's a shark also in the water.
Smell and an acute sense of underwater vibration. Sharks are the ultimate hunters of the Gulf Stream.
Again, are these shots of the shark actually right next to that boat that we've been seeing, or are these just like completely unrelated? That's what I want to know. Like, was all of this filmed on like one voyage, or is this just like a compilation of stock footage even back then? That's what I can't tell. See, like, what a shot. The cameraman just got rammed in the face by this shark, or the shark rammed him in the face with its face. So, again, just like incredible footage, you know? Like, I can only imagine how terrified the photographer must have been when getting that shot, you know? Like, what a crazy thing to get. And it just ends just like that, you know? Like, no more appreciation paid to the risk that the photographer just took to get that shot. We're just cutting and going off to the next thing. Again, like, is all of this happening around this boat, or are we only seeing like snapshots of this boat? That's what I want to know. Like, there could definitely be more than one person on this boat, but we've only ever seen one. So I'm just curious, like, what the actual operation behind this whole filming was.
Sailing north, I leave the trade wind zone and enter the middle latitude.
But again, somebody's filming this boat, so there must be another boat. That's what I keep forgetting, is there's definitely another boat, because who else would be filming it, you know?
Where the prevailing winds are from the west.
So maybe this guy is alone on his boat, and then there's just another even bigger boat maybe that is like, that actually has like the camera crew or whatever. I don't know. Just like if I ever wanted to film something like this, I have to figure out how they did it beforehand, you know?
NOAA Weather Radio, KRG7.
Dang, this is another crazy map. So this actually looks like it is like a satellite image map instead of what we saw a second ago.
77, Cape Hatteras. Weather map features for the coastal area. A cold front extending from a low over central Canada will pass over the coast today. Squalls and thunder showers will intensify as the front...
These are some really cool maps, though. I'm wondering how they made these, because they're sitting still, even though if they were taken by a satellite, the satellite would have been moving, but it might have been stationary. I don't know. It's just, this is a very impressive imagery for them to have in such an old program like this. Like, it's not even just an image from space. It is several videos from space, all from the same exact spot. Like, this is a much harder animation to pull off than anything else we've seen so far.
Moves offshore over the Gulf Stream.
Periodically, cold air masses from the north interrupt the flow of the warm west wind.
Yeah, it's just so impressive that we got to watch that. I'm over here in amazement still.
As the front passes over the current, tropical heat and moisture flow into the atmosphere, and the clouds grow. Sometimes the turbulence is so intense that tornadic whirlwinds develop.
Tornadic whirlwinds will develop. See, this is another reason I just don't know if I'm cut out for the open ocean, because, you know, the second the tornadoes just start falling from the sky, I will think to myself, you know what, I don't need to be out here. I could just go back on land. Like, look at that. Again, they're getting footage of actual sea spouts from this boat. Like, that's what makes it so impressive. It's like, it's not just random photography that they got. It's actual weather phenomenon that they managed to catch in the moment. Like, that's what makes it so amazing.
These can reach down to the ocean surface as violent but slow-moving waterspouts.
Geez, see, look at that. Holy moly. See, oh my gosh. See, imagine seeing that in a boat and like, what do you do if that's coming for you? Like nothing. What even happens to your boat in that instance? Like you probably get swamped in water. Like this is probably so much bigger than we even realize. And what's crazy is they're flying a freaking helicopter around it to get footage of it. That's what's so wild. Like think about how much wind is blowing in circles right now and they're flying to get this footage. Like they can't be that far from the coast if they're flying around a water spout in a helicopter like this. Like they must know that they're not that far from being rescued if something goes bad. Or maybe they're just really dedicated because this is some awesome footage.
The heat of the Gulf Stream, pouring into the air here off the American coast, is transferred to the west wind, and this drives the weather systems that eventually warm the climate of Europe.
Oh wow, so they're even mentioning, yes, the Gulf Stream also is the reason that Europe is a lot warmer than America for the latitudes that they're at. I didn't know if they were going to explain that or not, but it's good that they did, because that sort of is fundamental to understanding the European climate.
Heat loss affects the flow of the current. Cooling makes the stream flow more swiftly.
Again, some more amazing space footage like this. Oh man, I don't even know what to say about this. It's so impressive that they got it. It's all I have to say. Again, you don't even get this level of footage in like Atlas Pro videos. So the fact that we're seeing space from outer space in this video is really impressive.
If I were to sail these waters in midwinter, when Arctic air from Canada breaks out across the northern Sargasso Sea, I would encounter sea smoke steaming off the water over a huge area.
Oh, this is actually pretty wild too. That like a whole swath of ocean is just letting vapor off of it, continuously, creating just like the foggiest place you'd ever seen. This is really wild.
The heat put into the ocean at the...
This would be like terrifying to sail through. Like this is why we needed lighthouses, is for them to tell us when we were actually getting close to land, because you couldn't see through all this mist.
Equator pours into the atmosphere 6,000 kilometers to the north. And the cooled water of the current sinks down under the Sargasso.
See, so now we have even these little arrows as animations. So this is so funny. So it's trying to illustrate the gyre that forms in the ocean from these currents, which it's doing a good job of. It's funny to see how they do it.
Sargasso Sea, pulling the Gulf Stream north as strongly as the trade winds are pushing it in the tropics.
Dang, see, this is an even crazier shot of space. Like, this is not only like one spot for one place, but this is like almost the whole planet, and we're still stationary. Like, was this all shot by just one satellite that is just like geostationary or something? Is that what? It's just so impressive is what it is. It's like, again, we're watching this from 1981, 82, so like, I don't know, this is just really impressive photography for sure. Again, just something else that you don't get from an average Atlas Pro video. Like you can even see the sun reflecting off of the ocean. Like this is just such an impressive shot. Oh my gosh.
Like a river, the Gulf Stream flows most swiftly at its center. Northbound ships can gain an extra 100 miles each day they navigate in the axis of the current.
Really? Is that true? They would gain an extra 100 miles? That's actually like really impressive. That's like notable, But I wonder if that means it's also like much harder to sail back. It probably does. Oh dang, is this a whale now? Again, did they run into whales while filming on this guy's boat, or did they just go out of the way to find whales? That's what I want to know. Was this like the coolest voyage ever that they just got lucky on, or did they actually force themselves to get this footage by just, by just, going to the right place at the right time. Because I don't know, it's just like if they were on these boats and they just so happened to run into some whales, that's awesome, Like I don't know. I want to know if that was the case or not. Again, we're not seeing these whales with the boat, so I think there's just separate events, but I could be wrong.
In the spring, humpback whales migrate from their breeding grounds in the tropics.
Again, this seems like it's shot from a helicopter too.
As they ride the current...
But then we get underwater shots. Yeah, they totally got these like completely separate from the main story, I'd say.
The young grow the thick blubber they'll need when they enter the cold waters of the north.
It's some great footage, though. I don't know if this is stock footage or if this is still being gotten by the same photographer as the rest of this, but it is good footage.
The outer edge of the current is marked by a distinct line where sargassum and debris collect. Mariners call this edge the North Wall.
Is that true that there is just a line going through the water on the surface where the Sargasso Sea comes to an end? Like, that's so wild if it's true.
Crossing it, I pass from the hot tropical ocean.
Wow, that is just a barrier in the water. I've seen stuff like this before where one is colder and less salty and one is warmer and more salty, and that changes the densities of the water so that they don't mix. But I don't know, it's another thing to see this like in the open ocean like this.
The outer edge of the current is marked by a distinct line where sargassum and debris collect. Mariners call this edge the North Wall.
That's just so bizarre that there is an actual line running straight through the ocean for all to see. That's just, I don't know, that's so bizarre. That's like a huge structure on the Earth's surface.
Crossing it, I pass from the hot tropical ocean into the cold gray-green waters of the North Atlantic.
Like, do you think it's actually noticeable? Like, if you were swimming in that water and you swam from the tropic side to the, Arctic side, like, it has to be, right? Like, there's no other way you could maintain that difference in color and appearance if they weren't different temperatures and salinities. Some more of these maps, though. I'm still impressed by these.
On infrared photographs from space, a series of meanders is revealed along the North Wall. Over a period of days, huge loops of the stream can...
Oh man, this is a very impressive animation. Like those other arrows were kind of just like stills that they could have, replaced every frame or so. But this, I don't know how they made this animation.
Off, forming closed rings 200 kilometers across.
Yeah, like even the fact that they have these spinning and like changing shape, this is an impressive animation. They might have done it a similar way where they actually only drew like 3 frames and just swapped between them, but even still, this is pretty complex.
These warm rings drift for months in the cold water before fusing back into the current.
That's so funny. So yeah, they obviously knew how to animate them and how to make them move, but they didn't actually have the animation skill to like make them merge into each other. They kind of just faded in, which is, the limitations of the technology of the time for sure. It's so funny to just actually see that.
Loops which pinch off to the south encircle cores of cold water. Creatures caught in a cold core, like this Medusa with its attendant cleaning fish, will eventually perish as the core slowly mixes away into the warm Sargasso Sea.
Again, what a funny little animation that they just had, because they tried to have that little eddy like fade out, but they couldn't get the blue to fade out, even though that's what they were trying to illustrate, that it was warming up and becoming warm water instead of cold light blue water. It's just, I don't know, it's funny. It's funny that they like couldn't figure that animation out fully. Like it's still blue water by the end of it, like they could have faded that out to make it look real, but I don't know why they didn't do that.
Sailing between the Gulf Stream and the coastline, I am passing over the vast, sloping embankment that plunges from the continental shelf to the ocean floor. This is the slope water, cool and fertile. Migrant animals from near...
Whoa, this is pretty impressive footage too. This is like actually microscopic footage, which I guess isn't that out of place in 1982. It just, I feels like so early to be seeing microscopic footage like this.
near and far feed in these waters. Each night,
Like you can tell this is very early microscopic footage too, just based on the quality alone.
small fish in endless shoals make a vertical migration of a few hundred meters to feed at the surface.
Is it microscopic or is it, I can't even tell really. No, these are squids, aren't they? These are like full-sized squids that we're looking at, jeez.
Squid also
Yeah, there you go, squid.
come up from the deep to feed. They descend again at dawn.
Now we're just watching like frame by frame as this bird flies in the sky. Again, like the editing choices are a little interesting in this. The old-timey slow-mo where it's really just a low frame rate, like that's so funny. Like I guess there was no other way to slow down your footage back then. It's so funny to see the footage progress frame by frame now that they're slowing it down.
Dolphins range the slope water and the current throughout the year. The most traveled migrant is the great shearwater, which nests in the South Atlantic, but each year flies 15,000 kilometers north to feed here. Summer weather on the slope water is changeable. A calm, then a gentle breeze brings a dull haze across the sky. Ice crystals high in the air cause a halo to appear around the sun.
Dang, that's pretty wild. Can you just see that like anywhere from the ocean?
The sea begins to roll with an uneasy growing.
See, I feel like there's just a whole bunch of natural phenomena that I just have no familiarity with because I'm not on the oceans like this.
growing swell.
Like, I feel like I wouldn't be able to stop looking at this halo in the sky if I were to see it.
10 days ago, a storm began far to the south. A disturbance of squalls and thunderstorms formed deep in the tropics, where the trades and doldrums meet. The spin of the Earth organized the system into a vortex of gales, hundreds of kilometers across.
A vortex of gales 100 meters across. Again, the language they use is also just so figurative.
Warning, Hurricane Celeste intensifying, moving westward north of the Bahamas.
Oh wow, so this is an actual like weather map of the storm too. This is crazy. I did not think we had this sort of mapping technology all the way back in the 80s.
Expected to accelerate northeast up the Gulf
I mean, it's pretty rough, it's pretty like early, but it still conveys the right information.
Stream tomorrow. Maximum sustained winds near I, 110 knots, gusting to 130 knots.
Like that's just a hurricane that we're watching right now.
Raging winds push great waves hundreds of miles out ahead of the advancing storm.
Oh my gosh, do you see this boat rocking around in these waves? Holy crap. See, that's what I'm talking about when I say I sort of want to go sailing, but I don't really want to go sailing. Like, I don't like sailing enough to suffer being in a storm in a boat like this. That is a big boat getting thrown around by some waves right there. Yeah, and there's just like one guy on this boat still. I know there's the cameraman and everything. I think they're on a different boat though. It's just like, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine being alone in my boat in a storm like this.
Warning to shipping, 1400 hours. Hurricane Celeste imminent for sea area east.
Hurricane Celeste. Does anyone watching still remember Hurricane Celeste? It was probably in 1981. Please, can somebody in the comments just tell me they remember this storm?
Of Sable Island. Moving northeast at 50 kilometers per hour, with winds up to 200 kilometers per hour at storm center.
The hurricane feeds on the heat of the Gulf Stream as it roars up the east coast. But when it leaves the hot water, its energy source is cut off. and it diminishes to a gale over my location in the cold North Atlantic.
See, these animations are all just so good. Like, not only do they have the images, but we're moving around on them too. Like, it's so impressive for the time. I really was just not expecting this. Yeah, seeing this boat getting thrown around like this is really not convincing me that I actually would enjoy sailing. Like, it looks like a lot of fun, but also terrifying.
In the wake of the gale, the waves slowly subside. The warm air brought up from the tropics.
Dang, he's actually using a sextant? No way. I didn't think people actually used these even 40 years ago. Maybe like 100 years ago, but I did not think I was going to see a sextant today. Which is ironic because I've already watched this.
Spreads over the cold water, bringing on a damp fog. Extending for hundreds of miles, fog hides the greatest hazard to navigation: ice.
Oh geez, I didn't even think about that, but you're right. You can't even see anything out on this water. Like, you could just full force steam into a iceberg if you didn't know any better.
Icebergs are carried.
And again, on a boat like this, like, what do you even do? Like, you're just going down with the ship. Like, there's no lifeboat. There's still ice that you can ram into on your lifeboat as well, you know? Like, there's no rescuing yourself in this sort of situation. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm staying on land, actually.
Carried here from Greenland in the cold Labrador Current. It was here, south of Newfoundland, that the Titanic hit a berg and sank.
Dang, and the fact that they're just sailing right next to these icebergs is also just so wild. Like, look how big these are. These are like mountains just floating in the water somewhere.
From Baffin Island...
Holy moly, yeah, like exactly, a mountain floating in the water. That's exactly what I was saying.
The Labrador Current flows south as far as Newfoundland, where it mixes into the slope water. Together, these fill the deep Atlantic with the...
Dang, look how complex this map animation is getting, though. I know I keep saying it. It's so funny that they keep adding more and more layers of animation to it. Again, it might all just be like 3 frames that they switch between, but it's still like a lot of work.
Dense cold water over which the lighter Sargasso Sea floats.
Dang, why do I get the sense that this fish is like bigger than I am? Like, doesn't it look like it's just absolutely ginormous? It probably is.
One species ranges the whole Atlantic.
Are these tuna? These kind of look like tuna.
Bluefin tuna spawns...
They are tuna, no way.
South Africa. It travels the equator.
See, because I know tuna can actually get to be like thousands of pounds. Like, you can have like a huge tuna.
Equatorial currents to the Caribbean.
I always thought of tuna as just being like these foot-long sort of fish, but no, you can get huge tuna out in the ocean.
In the spring, they move up the Gulf Stream to feed in Canadian coastal waters. Fattened on herring and mackerel, they make a great migration back across the Atlantic in the autumn.
Dang, look at it gulp up these other fish. Like, it doesn't even need to chew, it just opens and swallows. This shot alone is a pretty good shot. You have to remember that there's a cameraman holding a film camera looking up while swimming in the water and then turning to get that whole boat motion. You know, that was a pretty impressive and like difficult shot to get, actually. Again, I just want everyone to appreciate like the photography that went into this sort of stuff too. Geez, even from the rumbling of this water, you can just tell how powerful the ocean is, you know? Like that deep rumbling, like something huge is happening. Like that would terrify me. Like that would terrify me if I were on the open ocean. Like it sounds like an avalanche.
Sunlight energizes the wind and sea, creating the turbulence in which life evolves. On the scale of the planet, patterns emerge. The cycle of the Gulf Stream, the vortex of the storm, the wind that fills my sail, and the wave that breaks on the shore.
Oh, that was the end. Wow, I was not expecting it to just end like that. But that, you know what? That was kind of anticlimactic. Like, where was that guy even sailing? You know, like I'm just so curious. What was that whole trip about? Like, you know, you can't just introduce this narrative in order to explain the Gulf Stream and then not like tie up that narrative in any way. But you know what? You know what? It was still good. I'm still glad that we got to watch it. And now I'm curious about the credits because it said it was directed by William Hanson and it was also written and narrated by William Hanson. So I think that was actually the sailor who was in the boat for all of those shots. Maybe I could be wrong, but I think that's what it's saying. Dang, okay, but look at the cinematography. Look how many people are listed for the cinematography. That means so many different camera operators, I think. Yeah, like all these different people helped get shots for this. And I'm pretty sure a big reason for that is just because all of those other random ocean shots that we saw were not connected to the boat or whatever. Oh, but we can see William Hanson is also credited in the cinematography. So the guy who was sailing the boat was also, it seems like, holding the camera at least sometime. Let's keep going. Sound recording, animation. Yo, shout out to these guys, the animation guys. Shout out Ken Horn, Sid Goldsmith, Malum Lamb, and Ryan Larkin. Shout out to those guys because they were doing some real work back in the day. Photo animation. Oh, see, that's what I'm saying too, the photo animation. So those were like the satellite images that they had playing on repeat. So that was a whole company, the Wally Bohan Company. Interesting. Shout out to the guys who made the music too, John Kuipers, Gnaud, and Ives Doust. I don't know how to say those names to be honest, but shout out to them. Shout out to the music makers. We gratefully acknowledge the generous assistance and cooperation of the following. McGill University, that's funny, my brother went to McGill. Bedford Institute, Canada, Project Jonah, University of North Carolina. I think we've watched something from the University of North Carolina before even too, something recently. Wow, a long list of thank yous. A Gulf Stream. Oh, produced by the National Film Board of Canada, so that makes sense. I guess we learned that in the beginning too. All right, yeah, so that was Gulf Stream. I feel like we didn't quite learn like all the mechanics of the Gulf Stream, but we did learn like the important story behind the Gulf Stream, and I think that's the trade-off that we made. Obviously, they didn't have like the best technology for animation during the time, so we didn't get to see like all the world's oceans animated all at once or anything, which is kind of disappointing, but you know what? It's fair for the time that this was made. Instead of giving us super complicated animations, we got some really cool footage of some really cool animals and some boats and stuff. So I think it all paid off in the end. I think that was an enjoyable experience, even though I honestly don't think that fully adequately explained the Gulf Stream. I feel like there are just a few more details that were not really touched on that could have been if, you know, they had the right technologies or the right animations, really. Had they had every animation they ever could have asked for, I'm sure they would have mentioned everything else. But also what I want you to think about is this is the very first Blue video I ever tried to watch. So whatever we watched in here is a good encapsulation of what I imagine the Blue genre to be on this channel. So if you watched this and understood it, you should have a good idea of what I'm going for when I select a video to be blue. But besides that, if you enjoyed watching and you want to support what I do here, you can go to the link in the description and donate to the Internet Archive. Yes, that is where I get all of these videos from. It's the Internet Archive. It's not me, trust me, the Internet Archive deserves all of your adoration and your donations. So once again, the link in the description, donate to Internet Archive. That's where I get all this stuff from. And with that, I think we're going to cut to black.